So, as you all know by now, the very first BookNet Fest was held in Orlando over the 1st and 2nd of September 2017 at the Caribe Royale Resort Hotel. It was a conference specifically by and for the online book community, with the focus on bringing content creators together. First impressions are important, as our moms always taught us, and if Sam and Marines wanted to launch their conference in memorable style, they couldn't have done much better than hosting it in a place with palm trees in the lobby and a swimming pool the size of a soccer field. This is exactly the kind of coolness that happens when you've never hosted a con before, and you don't have any idiots listening to your big plans and telling you, no, you can't do that. Just host it at the cheap-ass Best Western, over by the defunct mall. Now, I arrived on the Thursday afternoon before everything started, on a day which, for the most part, happened to be gorgeous, and on the off-season, meaning this would be relatively peaceful at least until Saturday. More soberingly, it was a weekend slotted by sheer dumb luck between two historically massive hurricanes, so thank God for that. Now, every room at the Caribe is a suite, and despite minor disappointment that I was just one room away from being truly elite, I was impressed by the space and comfort I was getting for such a reasonable price. Now, I've lived in many apartments that weren't this nice, so yeah. Work desk, check. Fridge and microwave, check. Big cozy bed with gratuitous pillows, check. I had plenty of time to wind down and also recon the neighborhood for the nearest CVS for stocking up on late-night snacks and sodas at lower than hotel prices. After napping for about an hour, I made my way downstairs in the early evening to pick up my registration badge and meet the first of my BookTube buddies. Oh, why hello there, Paige. And then a bunch of us coalesced into a pre-conference supper group and Ubered our way over to the House of Blues. Fortified by a passable, if not amazing, margarita, I shared a fun first night of food and chit-chat. But remember that lovely weather? Well, between starting and finishing dinner, this happened. Now, I don't know if this was Irma's first shot across the bow at Florida, but this is a very pissed-off storm here. And with our apps telling us it was going to last till 1 a.m., our choices were hang out and drink ourselves silly till they kicked us out, or make a run for it and jump on the first passing arc we could flag down.
Okay, so we did it. We actually ran through the storm and got back to the hotel. Right?
That was a poor choice.
Oh! See, that's what we just ran through. So, I'm a little damp.
Friday morning dawned, and lo and behold, it was gorgeous again. No idea why I got up this early, but I passed some time exploring the futility of drying the previous night's clothes, and then I got myself ready for our big day at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and this time, I wasn't going to leave behind my special +1 rain shielding wand. Everyone was sort of waking up and making their way to Universal Studios in their own time, so I ended up in a little party consisting of my fellow Worldcon survivor Denise Harwood, as well as two very nice guys I'd never met before, Mike from Slice of Mike and Arthur from Chapter Select. They ended up being an excellent theme park squad, and we stuck together for pretty much the rest of the day. I couldn't get one thought out of my head while we were there. Now, a lot of the entertainment here was corporate in origin, but imagine you're an aspiring fantasy novelist with a great idea for a series of kids' books. So you write them, and after dozens of rejections, you find a publisher, and then they just blow up. And years later, this exists. All of it, in reality, for real people to wander through. And it all came out of your little writer's brain. You know, it's a once-in-a-lifetime success, but it brings happiness to a lot of people when that lightning does strike.
Not on Labor Day weekend.
I'm so surprised at how non-crowded it is right
Yeah,
now.
it's because school started last week.
Yeah, it starts for me too.
At Diagon Alley, the BookTube mob finally found each other, mostly with everyone geeking out hard over wands and candy and grown-up adult stuff like that. Oh, don't be that way. Adulting is overrated and you know it.
Like every time I start like jumping up and down because I get so excited.
It's a bit much.
Two sides of the extreme.
Yeah, I don't love it.
We were like under it the first time it happened. We're like, ah, because it was so hot. Is this your first time here? Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
My feet were real sore at the end, but I had an incredible time. Oh, and my umbrella? I never used it once. Saturday morning, there was already a healthy crowd assembling by the hotel's conference rooms well before 10 a.m. Trying to figure out where to go, I discovered I had an immediate event.
Let's go in the room. Have you been in yet?
No, I haven't yet.
Then head into the room.
Which room?
That room right there.
That one
Those
right
doors.
there. Right on then. Okay.
Jenna Claire, who has become the unofficial official photographer of all things BookTube, was assembling all of the panelists in Ballroom 1 for a class photo, which we treated with all the seriousness befitting such a solemn occasion. What made BookNet Fest stand out from all the other cons I've been to since dinosaurs ruled the Earth was not just the infectious atmosphere of enthusiasm, though that was special. It's the way in which Sam and Marines conceived of the event as more of a big meet-up and love happening between online mutuals than a traditional conference, and they made a real effort to establish a welcoming atmosphere. Most conventions treat attendees as attendees, where the focus is on being either an author or celebrity event, where you show up to get your autographs and merchandise and whatever, or they're industry events, where you're there to be on the receiving end of publisher sales efforts. In other words, most conventions maintain the idea there is a transactional relationship between attendees and guests. BookNet Fest had panels and panelists, of course, but mostly pushed the idea of community, that whether you're a blogger or booktuber or bookstagrammer or even just part of the audience for book content online, we're a big group of people drawn together by our passion for the written word. We are all in our own way students of story. I spent the day doing 2 panels, one on book recommendations with lovely folks like Lainey, Camilla from Just a Book Eater, and Allie from Hardback Hoarder. Later I was on YA is Not the Only Fiction with Sylvia from Wish Fulfillment and Katie from Chapter Stacks, both of whom I loved listening to. Both of these panels were expertly moderated by Marty Ness. I've done panels for years and years, and I am always still afraid I yammer on too much and bore everyone, but they made me feel welcome and worthwhile, and I appreciated that. Despite the luxurious setting, Sam and Marines made the very wise choice to keep the scale of the event itself modest, with 2 simple programming tracks running from 9 to 6, followed by a big mixer and prize raffle that saw most people taking home at least 1 book, hopefully adding to the sense of inclusion. Now, I've heard feedback from some people for whom this was their very first ever convention, and even though they made it and had fun, they were still, being introverted and shy, a little disappointed they didn't talk more, still felt like wallflowers. Now, if that's you, let me just say, coming to this at all was a huge first step, and you should be proud of yourself. It will get easier over time.
So this is a game we're playing here. It's called Personal Space. What's that?
It felt so good and natural to finally meet all these lovely bookish people, some of whom I've known and collaborated with for a couple of years now, and others I was discovering for the very first time. And yes, even at my age, I find new beginnings a very exciting thing. I'm immensely proud of Sam and Marines for transforming this from an idea in their brains into reality within the space of a year. Remember what I said about Harry Potter World and the transformation of a dream into reality? You should have known that would come up again. I will be going back, contributing in whatever way Sam and Marines feel I can, and I hope next year to meet many, many more of you. And remember, we've got to get to the rides early to beat the lines.